Hello and welcome to the Detour. We are going live for every stage of this year's Tour de France. I'm Dan Jones in the driver's seat, but I'm joined by Mr. Detour himself, Johnny Trevorrow. This must be a really weird feeling. The Tour de France is about to start and you're not there, mate. How many editions did you do in a row and now you're not there?
G'day, Dan. Yeah, look, it's great to be here for a start. Just hearing that music, feeling it, talking about Cadel winning, I've already got the hair standing on the back of my neck. But you're right. I did my first tour in 91, came back in 98, and this is the first time since then that I haven't been there. But I almost feel like I'm there. I mean, we're working. We're going to be watching it every night. So miss out a bit of the French cuisine, but we'll survive.
Well, speaking of people that must feel weird that they're not at the Tour de France, Matty Keenan is one of those because he's going to be commentating with Robbie McEwen on the ground in Australia for SBS, and he joins us now. Mr. Keenan.
How are you, Dan?
Mate, we're trying to work our way around this live technology, so bear with us. But so far, so good. We're about a minute and a half in. But how are you feeling, mate, given that you're not on the ground at the tour at the moment?
Well, speaking of technology, it's all about technology this year's tour. So I'll be in Melbourne. Robbie will be in Sydney. I'll have Bridie O'Donnell with me in Melbourne as well. And in terms of technology, well, there's so many links. So the race is in France. It goes through Sydney, the signal that comes to me. The commentary goes back to Sydney. Then it goes out to the rest of Australia. You're worried about technology. I won't sleep tonight.
Yeah, the time zones, mate. Like normally, obviously, when you're there live, you know it's a reasonable hour of the day. But you're going to be up for sort of 2 a.m., 2:30 finishes. Are you sponsored by Red Bull and Nespresso?
I've just lost you there momentarily, but you're talking about the time zones. And for me, the big difference is going to be trying to get some sleep. So when I come home, I'll be getting home, I don't know, 2 o'clock, maybe 2:30, try and wind down, get to sleep at maybe 3:30, sometimes 4 o'clock. And then, inevitably, you'll need to go to the bathroom after about 4 hours sleep. And that way, it'll be about 7:30 in the morning, and the kids will be up. Dad's up, and it's light outside. So they want to hang out. You've had 3 hours sleep. It's going to be a sleeping race.
How would you handle those situations, Iffy?
It's nothing different. In the past, we would do the whole day on the Tour de France, and then we'd go out for dinner, and I wouldn't get to bed till about 2 o'clock anyway, so it's not really that different for me.
Well, I did see...
Dan, Dan, I am not going to John Trevorrow for tutorial lessons on sleeping patterns.
No. I tried to sit on his wheel on a number of those tours, and I reckon not only did I put on about 8 to 10 kilos, I just lost all colour in my face and took about 2 months to recover from a Tour de France. But anyway, talking about commentary, I saw a tweet, and it was Gero and the crew on the ground, Keenan. So Gero's going to be filling your shoes with Anthony McCrossan. I think we've got a picture of him there. And one thing that stood out is Gero, he obviously is meticulous with his bike, but he's not taking any precautions with this COVID virus. If you have a look at how much protection he's got on his headphones, I think he's going to be pretty safe. So the situation there is obviously, did ASO, Matty, need people on the ground with the commentary side of things from a tech perspective?
Yeah, they did, and they needed them to be having underwear over one of their headphones to protect their ears from any situations with COVID.
COVID loves ear holes.
I can't imagine what you guys were saying. Those headphones from Gero, I don't know, was the first thing that jumped out to me as well, Dan. They needed the people on the ground. So they looked at trying to get a solution where Robbie and I could do the international feed from Australia. But with the coronavirus situation, there was enough going on, and there were just too many hurdles to try and make it work. So they went for the safer option of having people on the ground and have one less link in the chain that could potentially break in terms of the broadcast. And as disappointed as I am that Robbie and I aren't doing the international broadcast, they've made the right decision.
It's going to be a strange edition of this race, obviously, because of COVID-19. If you were saying that you're talking to Stewie today and there's a few big issues around false positives at the moment.
Yeah, Stewie was talking about, and he pointed to a fantastic article that's actually on Cycling News that talks about the situation of all the false positives. Like there was a dozen riders and staff who couldn't compete in events last week, and all turned out to be false positives, and that's a real issue. But I was talking to Whitey last night, and he just sent me a text just before, and hopefully he can have a word with us shortly. But the ASO have changed the rules as of tonight, and so those 2 positives that would send a team out are now only for the riders, not for the staff. So that's a big change.
When was that decision made? That's a huge change, John.
Yes, just hot off the press. I've beaten you to something, Matty Keenan. Look at the surprised look on his face. First time ever.
You're gonna get plenty of that on the detour throughout this year's Tour de France, because we're really going to tap into all our Rolodex of contacts throughout this edition. One of the things I spoke with George Bennett and Sam Bewley on the Social Distance podcast. Now, you know George Bennett, Matty Keane. I think he's one of your biggest vote getters for your media award.
I need to talk to you about this. Keep going. So,
anyway, I asked George, because at the time the rules were if one of your mechanics or 2 of your mechanics tested positive, say Lotto were winning the race and they get kicked off the tour with a couple of days to go, how would you feel? And this is what George's reaction was.
Like, okay, I don't get nervous for races, but I get nervous if there's a potential that I'm going to up the whole team. And so there's a real potential of that in like team time trials. So you could literally crash your whole team by just peeling off to the wrong side or something, And I have this overwhelming kind of sense of doom of like, what if I'm the guy that tests corona positive? And even though I've done nothing wrong, even if I've just washed my hands, stayed in my bubble, but some rogue fan sneezed on me and I bring corona into the team, and that's how you lose the Tour de France, because someone sneezed on you.
Well, you wouldn't have that because you've got the antibodies.
Yeah, that's right. Well, man, I think that it's going to be pretty safe, isn't it? Like the protocol, it's an 18-page document. What I've
doesn't mean it's safe though, just because it's 18 pages.
Mate.
Oh no, it's 18 pages, real good.
If it was 6 pages, I'd be stressed.
Yeah. Oh, thank God, 18. Okay. No, don't worry. Next topic.
Yeah,
Dan,
they could vary those boys.
Jumbo-Visma, G Bennett, 3 votes.
Yeah,
The unbackable favourite to make it 2 in a row for the Tour Media Medal.
Yeah, he's a classic, but it raises a good point. Like, a lot of these riders must be worried that they're starting the race now it's a red zone. I was talking to the guys just before, and they said obviously people are pretty nervous with the tour starting in Nice. I mean, it literally could be a rogue fan that sneezes on a rider or whatever. I mean, you've got all these other factors. It's unlike any edition of the race we've ever seen.
Yeah, John, there's a cliche. We hear AFL coaches say it all the time: control the controllables. This year's tour has more uncontrollables than any other tour that I can remember.
Yeah, look, from what I can gather, talking to the people on the ground over there, I was talking to Dara as well, they're not so concerned about the riders picking up the pandemic from a fan on the side of the road. That's not their big concern. That's going to be pretty well policed. They're not at the start and the finish, the fans. Their bubble's going to work. What they're worried about, 2 things: the false positives, because they're becoming more and more prevalent, and that's a real concern. That someone gets a positive and they're not even positive, and then they're kicked off the bloody bike race. They're worried about that, and seriously worried about that. And then the staff. I mean, the staff, even though they're in that bubble, they've got to do things that others don't have to do. They're in the hotel. They've got a bit more chance to pick up the virus now that they've changed that rule. They're likely to get a false positive. At least they can just kick them out. It doesn't affect the team.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting for sure. Like, as you said, there's nothing you can do with the false positives because you're relying on, the medical fraternity to essentially do the right thing and hopefully come up with a result that doesn't have negative impact and get you booted off. But the thing with the start in Nice, did you see the team presentation yesterday? It was very different. It was just almost had like an eerie feel to it. A few of the riders were saying, like, you could tell it was a tour. Like Bills was saying, mate, there were still more people than the Vuelta last year, but it did have just this aura of eeriness to it. Did you feel the same, Matty?
Yeah, I watched it. I didn't watch it live because it was 2:30 in the morning, but I watched it on the ASO YouTube channel this morning, and I had some audio issues as well with Simon and Anthony doing the commentary. So there was about 25% of the event was without audio, but the whole idea of the team's presentation, particularly now when you see riders, they wear helmets and glasses and you don't get to see their face very much. The whole idea of the team's presentation is to introduce the riders to the public, get to know them without their helmet and their glasses on, and they all had masks on, which they have to do, it's mandatory. So we couldn't see them anyway.
A few interesting selection ins and outs. When the Mitchelton Scott team came up iffy, I noticed there was no Aussies for the first time ever in the history.
Yes, look, it's just the changing of the guard. The sport's become internationalised, and so now you're an international team, and you're not really thinking about, how many Australians can I get in or whatever. They probably wouldn't even realise until after, we haven't got an Aussie in there. But that's not how they go. You look at Ineos, number one British team ever. They've got one Pom in there, and he's just a worker. They've just kicked out their two biggest name Poms. So it really doesn't come into the equation. But as they say, Mitchell's it's got Australian DNA, and that stands for no Aussie.
What about Bling, Matty? I thought he was a bit stiff not to get a start for the tour. He'd be pretty filthy, given that he's obviously got good form.
Shocking decision. We've got Peter Sagan going for his 8th green jersey, and if Michael Matthews was starting the tour tomorrow in his current form, with Peter Sagan in his current form, I'd have Michael Matthews as the favourite for the green jersey. They've made a bad call.
Yeah.
Actually, it's worse than a bad call. They haven't got anyone capable of winning this Tour de France. I don't care what they say. So what is the point of it? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
No,
it's got to be politics. There's got to be something going on behind the scenes.
No. People make mistakes, Dan. They've made a mistake. I don't think there's any politics behind it. I don't think there's anything malicious behind it. I just think they've made a bad decision.
Well, talking about stuff that is obviously more positive for the Aussies, Caleb Ewan obviously is the red hot favourite, and if he takes out the opening stage, he'll be in yellow. What's that, Matty? Being a cycling almanac, that's the first time since Rowan Dennis in 2015.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's one of the outsiders, actually, because the stage is pretty hard. And if I'm NTT and I've got a guy like Giacomo Nizzolo there, who I don't think can beat Caleb in an out-and-out sprint stage, they've got to make as hard as they possibly can over the hills to try and get rid of Caleb. There'll be a few other teams that might be thinking the same sort of thing. It will be really interesting to see if Caleb can survive those climbs. What he's got to his advantage is that the Lotto Soudal team is one of the few teams that is really built around their sprinter. I think he's an outsider for stage one, but I've got him the favourite for about 4 other stages. And he won 3 last year. I think he's going to be even better overall this year.
I'm going to disagree, because I don't reckon that hill is 50k to go. They'll put the pressure on the last time, and I'm sure Caleb will have a challenge to get back on. But the whole team will stay with him. I reckon they'll get back. So I'll put him as favourite. So there you go.
Okay. I hope you're right. John. I hope I've made a call a bit like Sunweb on Michael Matthews, and I'm completely wrong.
Well, the other benefit is Caleb lives not far from Nice, being in Monaco. So he would have reconned and done those climbs so many times. And the other impressive thing with Caleb is, have you seen his cars? Have you seen that Lamborghini that he's got? It's like a Batmobile. So he's motivated
to win so he can pay for them.
Oh, mate. When I saw that.
Cycling, is he?
Yeah, it literally looks like the Batmobile. And when I saw it, instant street cred. Normally I'm like, mate, what a flog. Like, you don't need to colour that. I was thinking, nah, good on you, mate. Like, you're in Monaco. You're one of the world's best sprinters. Like, who wouldn't flaunt it? Now, talking about the GC battle, obviously, you guys know I like a bet. And the odds have got Bernal on top, Roglic not far behind at $3. Pino's up there, Dumoulin, Carapaz, Pogacar. Now he's a ripper. I saw his birth date, 21st September 1998. I was in year 11. That makes you feel bloody old. How good's this young kid, Matty?
Yeah, so if his career is anywhere near as long as Alejandro Valverde's career, those two guys were on the podium together last year at the Volta of España. If Valverde goes to Pogacar's last pro race, Valverde will be 60 years of age when he watches this guy finish his career he's racing with now.
That's unreal.
Baby. Valverde is old enough to be his dad, okay? But the last time somebody won the Tour on debut was Laurent Fignon in 1983. This guy is an outside chance. It's not beyond him. I'll be surprised if he's outside the top 5. I think he can finish as high as 3rd. I don't think he can win overall. But I love watching him race. He's so exciting.
Well, he's proven he can go the distance. That's the whole thing. I've got him. I think I've got him 5th. But I've got a different one for the win. I'm going for Pinot. I think Thibaut Pinot. I really felt without the injury 3 days to go last year, he would have won last year's Tour. So I think he's going to be a big chance.
John, I'm going to quote Rafael Nadal for you here. When he played against Nick Kyrgios, and afterwards they said to him, if Nick Kyrgios trained and had the same approach to tennis as you did, how good do you think he would be? You know what Nadal said? If. That's
why they call him Iffy.
Very
John,
good.
There's no if.
No, there's no ifs.
Fragile.
I'll pick him.
Weakness, he's fragile.
Yeah, well, he was pretty good last year. I was very impressed. The most impressed I've ever been with him.
He was really good until he wasn't in the race anymore.
Oh, 3 days to go. Right, you're a hard bloody taskmaster, Matty.
But it'd be good for the race though if a Frenchman won. It'd be great.
Well,
for the race
you mentioned Fignon. He was the last French winner, so it's been a while.
Yeah,
but look, I think I picked him, and I think Roglic will. I think he can beat Bernal, and if he hasn't, as long as he hasn't got any overseeing problems from his crash in the Dauphiné, but he's been so good in the last few weeks, and I don't think Bernal's quite there. We know this is the perfect course for Bernal. It's harder, more mountains. The time trial finishes up a mountain, so they've really set it up for him. But I think it suits Roglic and Pinot just as much. So I think those three are going to be battling it out.
So obviously, crashes have been pretty topical in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Now the word is that the rain's coming in for the first 2 stages, and given all the crowds and tourists that are around Nice area, it's going to be a lot of slippery roads. For sure, there's going to be drama in this first week, and that begs the question with selection. Last year, if you were running the show at Ineos, would have you had a bit more of a backup strategy with your GC riders, or you just roll the dice for Bernal? And obviously they got Carapaz, but would have you taken Thomas or even Froome?
No, I think they've made the right decision because those 2 riders did not have the form to win this Tour, and they've put riders in who are better at that domestic role, but they're not designed for it. It's not in their DNA. They'd try. They're professionals and they're good guys, but no, bringing Carapaz in is a ripper. Matter of fact, he is a fantastic number 2. He could be the man. If Bernal has some troubles in that first week or whatever, they'll whack Carapaz in for the GC.
John, I'm just going to pick myself up off the floor. I agree with you.
You reckon that was a good move?
Yeah, great move. Carapaz won the Giro last year. He was 4th the year before. He can potentially win this race if things go wrong for Egan Bernal. Don't underestimate how good Pavel Sivakov is either. He'll win a Grand Tour at some stage throughout his career. In addition to that, Chris Froome was way off the mark. Way off the mark. You cannot underestimate the impact of that crash that he had at the Dauphiné last year and coming back from that. Also, Geraint Thomas. Years ago, sure, you put him in as a domestic to carry water bottles, but not once you've won the Tour de France. He's won the Tour now. He's not paid to carry water bottles. He's paid to win. So he goes to the Giro d'Italia and he tries to win that one. I agree 100% with John Trevorrow. I can't believe those words rolled out.
That's not true. You have agreed with me. I can remember the last time. It was about 5 years ago. But anyway, we won't go there.
Yeah,
But Carapaz, he's not that young. People think of Carapaz, he's like 29, I think, and he's at the peak of his career and a great athlete. But you know what? We're going into a tour where Sky, then Ineos, were easily the strongest. They've only lost one in the last however many years when Froome fell off and Nibali won. But they've been the team of strength. This year, if Jumbo doesn't equal it, they might even be better when you look at the quality and the depth of Jumbo-Visma.
I've got a question for you then, John. You are potential winner of the Tour de France. So you're Egan Bernal or Primož Roglic. Which team do you pick as your support crew? The current lineup at Ineos or the lineup at Jumbo-Visma?
Jumbo-Visma.
Me too. Jeez, that's twice.
Yeah.
One podcast.
But you have a look at them. You've got. Don't underestimate Martin. Tony Martin. Tony Martin is the best diesel since Stuart O'Grady. For just being on the front all day at an amazing pace, he can do it. So, and then you've got all these other climbers, we just took our crazy Kiwi who was on there before. He is in superb form, George Bennett. Then you've got Wout van Aert. What can't he do? He'll be racing. If he wanted to, I reckon he could almost take the green jersey, but he's not going to go for it, evidently. But if he really wanted to, he is capable of beating Sagan for the green jersey. He's faster than him. He's stronger than him. He's a world-class time trialist. And he climbs like unbelievably well. So he's going to be awesome. You've got Tom Dumoulin, who'll probably end up having to do the support stuff in the last part of the mountains, but capable of getting on the podium himself. But one of them is going to, whoever's going the best, the other one will serve him. But it's just such a strong team.
And you know what I like as well, John? And I like when Kruijswijk was out, okay, he crashes out. That's a big loss. You lose the guy that finished third last year. I like that they didn't replace him with another climber because you can't just find another Steven Kruijswijk. They've got other climbers in there, but not at that level. They're already taking care of the climbing with the guys you mentioned, George Bennett, Sepp Kuss. Dumoulin, I think, could potentially win the race if something goes wrong with Roglic. What they've done is they've put in Janssen, the former Norwegian champion. He weighs 83 kilograms. What that tells me is that they're looking at their options strategically to tear the race apart on a flat, windy day in the crosswinds.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, no, for sure. It is a wonderful team. And you just mentioned the young American, because how good was he last week? Hey, he is going to be. And I love the way that Roglic always lets Kuss sit behind him. It's like a bit of a security blanket. He's got the team in front, and then he's got Kuss sitting behind him. Just if he needs him, come here, mate. I need you to do this. It's quite different.
Talking of Visma, Richie Porte, I think, labelled them the killer wasps. And they were talking about that on the Social Distance podcast last week. Richie's obviously, what's he going to be doing? Going for a stage win or two? Matty?
I think he's finished fifth in the past, right? And he is undervalued in Australia in terms of his contribution to Australian cycling. He is one of only 3 guys in the history of Australian cycling to finish in the top 5 of the Tour. And he's keeping company there with Cadel and Phil Anderson. Pretty good company to keep for Richie Porte. But I don't think he can win it. Does he finish 5th again? Maybe. I'd much rather him see him win a stage than not win a stage and finish 6th or 7th. I'd love to see him win a stage. And the other thing I'd like to see him do, I'm interested in your thoughts on this, John. I'd like to see him go for the King in the Mountains jersey. An Aussie has won white, Phil Anderson. Cookie, Matthews, and McEwen have won green. Cadel's won yellow. No Aussie has won the polka dots. Go, Richie.
It'd be good to see. I don't think he will. I think, from rumours I hear, that he's going to be moving on to another team, that he'll move into a major support role. So this is his last chance for GC. I reckon he's going to go for it, which would be a shame, because if he goes for GC and cracks near the end, he won't get the chance to win that stage, because while he's still within that few minutes, they're not going to let him get up the road in a break. If he does crack early, then he'll be a big chance to get one of the stages by, if you lose a few minutes, I'll let you go up the road. But I think he's going to go for it, and I reckon he could finish around about that fifth. I've got a cross between him and one of the other guys for fifth in my top 10. But and with a little bit of luck, wouldn't it be great to see him just get onto that podium? And look, he hasn't got the team, but if he rides it in that way and uses Jumbo-Visma, for instance, as the team, just pops on the back of Roglic and then tries to get dragged into that position.
John, you don't need a team for third. You need a team for first. He's got the team for third, but he doesn't have the team for first.
Yeah. One thing I love about Iffy is going into the tour, he's always super positive about Aussie's chances in the race. Like 2011, you're probably the only guy that was saying that Cadel Evans, he's going to win it this year. I'm telling you. And we all laughed at you. Go, mate, got it all. He's got to mop him up. But no, you were spot on that year. We've got a fan question. Now, we tried to go under the radar because we weren't confident with the technology, and having you live to air, we thought, it's a bit of a risk if we push it too hard. But someone has written in, and it's Philip Thorpe. He wants to know what's happening with GreenEdge this year. So what's the pass mark for this year's tour, given the success of last year, Iffy?
Look, I guess it's stage wins. They want at least 2 stage wins, and I know that they believe they can win 3 to 4. They've got a team of you call it the Wolf Pack. De Koenig are called the Wolf Pack. Well, I think they've got a team of stage hunters out here. Everyone in that team is capable of getting up the road and getting a stage. They've got some really good climbers. So that's their plan. So they're not even attempting GC. It's all about stage wins.
What do you reckon, Matty?
I think if they win 1 stage, I think it's a pass. If they win 2 stages, they should be really happy. Last year was an enormous race. They won 4 stages. It was sensational. I know Adam Yates is leaving the team. I'd really like to see Adam Yates win a stage, partly because he is leaving the team. It would be a nice parting gift between him and the team. And we've seen his brothers won a stage in all 3 Grand Tours. And Adam Yates, he's a bit like Mark Ward, one of the best in the world, but not the best in his family. He's been 4th overall on the tour before. He's never won a stage in a Grand Tour. I think it'd be good to see him win one.
It'd be great. And I think you've got a good chance, actually, because if he's not going for GC, providing he can lose a little bit of time early, it's all about that, maybe having to let them go on a stage. So you're a few minutes down and they'll let you get in that breakaway. He's got great form and he could win a really good mountain stage from a breakaway.
Well, you forgot Daryl Impey as well. He's leaving the team. Yeah, Esteban. I would love to see him win a stage of the tour. Obviously, I was there when he rode his first tour in 2017, and he gave everyone in the team, including staff, this wristband, and it had like a little engraving on it, and it said "Dreams come true." Yeah. And he did a big speech before the tour started about what the tour meant to him and just his battles, and this was a dream since he was a little kid. So, I was sort of expecting the whole, we're not going for the GC, and then just saying, Esteban, listen, mate, if you really want to just stay in contention in the first week and we can reassess, then you're not going to get any support to defend or we're not going to put people on the front. But if this is something you want to do, just go for it. But
he'd be a feel-good story from that team.
Yeah, exactly. And he's
I was talking to Waddy last night, and he said his form is fantastic. So they're really pleased with Esteban's form. So, and I'm sure that will be an option for him. He won't need any support. He'll just hang in there on the climbs, and if he's there, well, he'll be a great positive story for them.
You can tell when Esteban's on good form. It's his cheekbones. He gets that real gaunt-looking sort of face, and he definitely looks like that on the podium. I could see it just underneath the mask. Now, big question, Matty. What have SBS got planned for the coverage this year? Obviously, it's a different setup, not being able to be on the ground. What are they going to be doing?
So Tomo and Robbie will be in Sydney. Robbie will be in the commentary booth. Tomo will be in the studio doing the hosting. Bridie and I will be at Fed Square in Melbourne. So we'll be commentating with Robbie. We'll be able to see each other on some sort of a format like this, FaceTime or something or other, so we can have those hand signals. And Dave McKenzie will be doing updates live from his living room in Carlton. It's going to be interesting to see how it all comes together.
And what was it like in the commentary booth for the last couple of years with Robbie? Because I know in the early days at GreenEdge, I used to work with him doing the backstage passes, and ripping guy, but just hard to lock down to a set routine every day. Whereas I feel that you'd be the opposite.
Oh, funny that you say that, Dan. So the first year that we travelled together, we had dinner the first night we arrived. He said, "Now, Keno, I need you to know something. I don't do schedules." Okay, Robbie. Well, the tour starts at a specific time each day, and the broadcast starts at that time. So not mind what you do in the morning around breakfast, etc. But we need to be on air when the race starts and that red light turns on. Can we agree on that? Okay. So we work the rest of the day around that.
Obviously the lead into the tour was big from a media perspective. Now, your biggest thing I remember was the car stickers. Do you want to give people a quick insight on the Tour de France access and how that works for the different media?
Yes, well, different media have different colour car stickers. So the green sticker was the best one to get because that enables you to actually go in the race. And that's gotten harder and harder to get. And I always had the green stickers, which was great, which meant I could get in there. Every now and again, you do something wrong and you get thrown off, and they whip the sticker off your car. But that only happened once. But everyone has a bad story. But it's interesting. So your green sticker allows you in the race. Only a few media cars get that, and you can sit in smaller breakaways. You're allowed in behind. You get brought up to have a good look. You can pop just in front and then nick off out of the way. Then there's the blue sticker, or blue and pink, which means you can go on the race course. You can the pink allows you to go through the caravan, which is ridiculous because it's like a slalom course going through there. And then there's an orange sticker, which means you go on an alternate route, but you can at least park in near the start and the finish. So they're the three sort of different levels of media stickers.
And you used to get in trouble, like speeding was a big thing, particularly going into the towns, and they used to have the gendarmes. And you used to get the two-finger salute, the two-arm salute many a times. And then there was no warning. It was literally like you're off the race for a day.
Oh, well, I had a couple of holidays, but, that's okay. They forgive you. But
hey,
we've got someone coming on. Another question.
We've got another question from Ash Creasy. Hey, guys, what's the crowds going to be like this year? Are we going to see lots of restrictions in place? Do you know much about the...
Yeah.
Well, I know a little bit about Nice. They've just come through. Oh, sorry, mate. They've just come through tonight with some more restrictions for the first few days in Nice because of the situation of the red zone. So they're restricting the amount of vehicles they'll be able to go to the mountain stages. They're really restricting the first 3 days even more than the rest of the tour. So there's a lockdown zone at the start and the finish. There'll be crowds just won't be going into that area at all. And the climbs out of Nice tomorrow will be restricted.
Dan, it's going to be so hard to police. I watched the French National Championships last weekend, and there were lots of spectators on the side of the roads without masks on. I was at Paris-Nice when they were trying to first implement some of the restrictions. The start line and the finish line, they were able to control. But once you're out on the hills, it was really difficult for the organisation to keep it contained. Can we answer that question on Monday?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's been a bumper first edition of the Detour Live, guys. Is there anything you want to add? Because tomorrow night, Iffy, I think we should let people know that we're going to be going live an hour before the coverage starts on SBS every night, yeah?
That's correct. But tomorrow night, SBS have got another show starting a bit earlier. So we're going to be on at 6:30 tomorrow night till 7:30. So everyone can listen to us and then jump on for the wonderful SBS coverage. And what's that show at 7:30? What is it? A highlights package, Matty? What actually is it?
No, we're on at I think it's 8:30 with the course.
Yep, no, it's 7:30. 7:30 with the course.
7:30, is it? Oh, okay, I'm glad you know.
Jeez, a man that was built on routine and prep, you would have been able to dial
We're
that.
doing it. Yes, you are right. I'll be in the SBS from 4:30, and yeah, we're on air. The course starts at 6. The race actually starts at 6, and we come on an hour and a half after the race has started. I think we should be on about 40 k's to go or so. I think it's going to be a really good race based on what I saw at the European Championships last night, which were phenomenal. That was a great race.
Now, before we go, if we were going to plug your podcast, the Detour podcast, because you had a pretty special guest on, when was it, Tuesday, Cadel Evans, and it was all about the 2011 Tour de France, and some of the insights were fantastic.
Oh, look, it was brilliant. It was great to talk to him. And he said, look, I've only got just an hour. And then he had a little bit of sound difficulties with his phone. So we didn't start for about 10 minutes. I thought, oh, well, we'll cut it short. We went for about an hour, 20 minutes, and he was fantastic.
Well, just before we go, there's one little snippet where Cadel was talking about that famous stage 18 when he got ambushed by Leopard.
There was no one left to chase in that valley from Briançon because there was only like leaders left. And so that certainly worked to Andy Schleck's advantage. And also, I don't know why, but the breakaway worked really well together. And another thing that...
Well, he had two teammates in that breakaway.
I didn't really had two.
He had two. Yeah.
Two teammates, but also the wind. There's so many spectators. There's so many campers parked on both sides of the road. It was actually quite protected from the wind, which you go there and course reconnaissance, oh, look, the wind always blows this way, or if it's windy, it blows one direction. And then you get there and it's like, there's no headwind here. So that also countered that was, it's a small difference, but it's the small differences that make a difference in the end because we're riding flat out in front and behind. And then, so when we started the Galibier or the Lotteret, it was Contador came to me. We should ride here because we're gonna lose the Tour, and it was actually Contador who started the chase, and then I took over, and from that point, I had to take into hand. Vauclair wasn't going to help me. In the end, when after the selection had been made, the only rider in the group that had a teammate was Vauclair. There was no way he was going to help me win the Tour. He'd rather lose his place on the podium than help me win, which he finished fourth, funnily enough, in that Tour. So I was just left on my own devices. And what for me was the important thing was I had the legs to ride and bring Andy back. But I had to also defend in the final against Frank Schleck, who's not only his teammate, but also his brother, who's on my wheel and has been sitting on my wheel for like 9 k's up the Galibier. So it was a bit, I had to ride pretty hard to make a selection of who was left, bring Andy Schleck back, but also to get something in reserve because I was expecting Frank Schleck to attack me in the final kilometre.
Hey, boys. Before we go, we've got another special guest. This is how we roll on the detour. Anything can happen. Matty White, live from France.
Hey, guys. I'm sitting here with Julie. We've just been to all our meetings before the Tour de France here in Nice and back to the hotel.
G'day, Jules. How are you, mate?
Good, team. How's it all going?
Yeah, going well. We've got Matty Keenan here with us, and we were just bagging you, Jules, but we'll take it all back now.
Whitey, what I want from you is the executive summary on the 18-page document around the COVID, what rules around COVID and what you've got to do. If you just give me the dot points on that 18-page document, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, just a quick summary on the COVID rules, boys.
Yeah, sign it and leave the doctors will handle the rest. We're good.
I love it. Right.
Hey guys, one other question is how did the bank heist go?
Hey, we haven't got there yet.
It does seem strange that you have to put a mask on to walk into a bank these days. But anyway, before we go there, Matty, I just got to say thanks for sending that information through that you got. So what ASO have now changed it. So now it's only the positives from the riders, not the staff.
Yeah, that's right. And then the with the riders, it'll be a rolling. It won't be 2 positives and you're gone. So it'll be, if you have 1 positive and then 8 days later you have another positive, then that's acceptable. So it's a lot more lenient than the original information that we had. So it's good. It's good. I think with staff as well. Staff can be replaced. They have to do a 3-day test before and one on arrival. But staff can be replaced because it would be pretty devastating if you had a couple of positives in the staff who had no real direct contact with riders, like for example mechanics, and the team had to go home sometime during the Tour de France. So I think it's been a good outcome.
Whitey, on a racing front, Dan was asking us the question before about what's a pass mark for Mitchelton Scott on the back of winning 4 stages last year. I thought that was a phenomenal performance. I said, a stage win is a pass to start with. What are your expectations?
Yeah, I agree. I think any team, besides 3 people can arrive on the podium, and the majority of teams, if you look at statistically, the majority of teams don't win a stage. At the end of the day, teams dominate, and we were one of those teams last year. So more teams walked away with the Tour de France without a stage win than won one. And if we win a stage, that would be a box tick for sure. We're aiming at more, but 1 stage win would be sensational. Who's your best chance? Look, I think we've got multiple. I think with Adam Yates and
I think that was Esteban.
Is in the
Yeah, I reckon that was Yates.
Mikel Neves is also a dark horse. And then, we've got Mezgec and...
He's in a tunnel.
Yeah, he's in the French tunnel.
You are. That's fantastic. So it's Yates and the dark horse.
You got me, guys?
Gotcha.
Yeah, we got you back.
Yeah, you're back.
We just had to go into the bank. We just come out of the bank. Yeah, we're good. We're good.
I think Esteban would be the feel-good story from your team. If Esteban was to get a result, that would be the heartwarming story in Australia.
No, for sure. It's been a couple of years since. Well, last year he won. The last 2 years he's won stages in the Giro. And put it this way, Matt, I think if lockdown has helped anyone in this team, it's definitely Esteban. He's given himself every chance for some great rides this month. He's in very good shape and been very, very consistent in Colombia over the last 5-6 months. And people have had a good look at this the Tour de France this year. There's a lot of chances for climbers, especially ones off the radar with general classification. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for him to step up this year.
Yeah, I'm not meant to be biased, but I've got my fingers crossed for him.
Whitey, I just spoke with Wendy Superfan, and she's pissed off, mate. Where are the Aussies?
Well, we've got 2. It's the least amount since 1991. So look, at the end of the day, we had different plans for a few of the Australians, and the notable one is Luke Durbridge, who at the moment is still preparing for an attempt on the World Individual Time Trial Championships. We'll find out hopefully very soon if that's on. But we had to shuffle around our Tour and our Giro teams a little bit because of the proximity of the 2. And the fact that obviously we are going in with a big goal of trying to win the Giro GC-wise. So, look, it's how it is. You're probably going to see 5 Australians at the Giro out of our team this year. And yeah, we pick the teams not on their passports, but on who's best for the job. And this year with the World Championships where it was, the Giro where it was, and it just didn't work that way.
And another thing, Whitey, it must be a weird year given that everyone gets their own room. Do you get that list that tells you your average accommodation star rating this year? You got a lot of Campaneals, and what are their health standards like this year? Lot of Dettol spray.
No, look, we've got one Kyriad in the back end there, Jonesy, which is bearable. But no, not everyone has their own rooms, but the vast majority of people have their own rooms. The mechanics haven't, but all the treatment staff and the directors and the riders have got their own rooms. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, because our party and every team's parties are so big, that we'll actually have 2 and sometimes even 3 hotels. So it's an extra addition to the bubble. Put it that way.
Hey, we don't mind the spillover hotels, eh, Jules?
We don't mind the spillovers, mate.
It's always where the best entertainment is.
I'm very disappointed as team mascot fellows that I won't be there for the first time since the team started, but I'll be watching every night and rooting for you guys. All right.
Yeah, cheers, mate. We've had to adapt our bin drop-off points accordingly, John. But got extra staff for that. We've got enough for that, mate.
Yeah,
good stuff, Whitey. Well, we wish you all the best leading into the opening stage and stay safe. They reckon that there's going to be a bit of rain coming down over the next couple of days. Yes,
Saturday looks like rain, which will make the first stage very, very tricky. So we're just in the niche environment. It's there's a lot of technical runs, and look, the first stage is going to be, as you've seen, racing this year in general has been very nervous. But when you put the yellow jersey on the line, day one with a bit of rain, it's going to be entertaining enough.
We were just debating before whether Caleb can get around that first stage. I sort of felt he could, but what do you think? Is it or is how they race it? Do you think they'll be trying to keep Caleb out the back?
Look, I think any sprinter who doesn't get through the first stage will be on a shocker, because the hard climb, which we do 2.5 times, it's still 60 kilometres from the finish. After you get over the category 3 climb the last time, you've still got some false flat, but there is a lot of time to come back. So you'd be on a shocker if you didn't make the finish tomorrow. I think the sprinters will get dropped, but they have got more than an hour to come back. So yesterday was headwind off the ocean when you come back towards the finish line, and so I would expect a bunch sprint with everyone included. So I think Caleb's got a very good chance to win tomorrow. Stage 2, the sprinters have no chance, that's for sure. But stage one is very doable for the sprinters, because they've got time to come back after the category 3 climb.
So any chance of the tactics being to be up there bopping around in stage 1 and then potentially take the jersey in stage 2 if it's a little bit more difficult?
Yeah, look, Luca will bop around there stage 1 with Daryl. And then, if anything, if you can run at a higher pace, it'll give us a better car order than we've got at the moment. We're in car 16 tomorrow. So, and like, all jokes aside, if we checked out stage 2 on Wednesday, and it's some of the most technical descents I've seen in a long time. The last big climb of the day. So if your car, whatever, even on cold airs, if your car after car 10. If your riders have difficulties, you're going to take a very long time to be able to service them. So it's it will be very important if you've got a good car order for the first couple of days, definitely. But as far as our tactics for stage 2, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw an aggressive Adam Yates.
Good stuff, mate.
Good stuff, bud.
Thanks for joining us, Whitey. Really appreciate it, mate, because obviously it's quite a hectic period leading up to the start of the tour. So appreciate the time, mate. We're looking forward to checking in throughout the race, and fingers crossed all plans come to fruition.
Well, the big thing, we need fingers crossed with French telephone communication, I reckon, guys. Yeah, as you know, you move outside a city or a major town. It's like Vodafone used to be in Australia outside of a city.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Looking forward to catching up daily with you guys.
Good on you, mate.
Great, Whitey. Thanks, bud.
Take it easy, bud. See you, Jules.
Hi, Julian. See you, pal.
Oh, how good was that?
Fantastic. Hey, brilliant.
Yeah, we're going to be lucky because, as you said, Whitey's going to try and check in most days. Matty Keenan's back to sign off. What happened there, Keeno? Technical difficulties, mate.
My battery died.
That's awesome.
Is that Robbie McKeown? No, sorry, it's Matt Keenan.
Well, no,
mate, your batteries aren't charged.
We're just going to do a test. We'll get you online for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, you're just so good.
Yeah. We know you. You're like Phil Liggett. You don't want to get off here.
Well, that wraps a monster show, boys. Yeah, as we said, we're gonna be streaming every night, an hour before the SBS coverage, and we'll handball all our huge amount of followers into SBS and the Tominator, and then he'll drive that into Robbie and the Keenan show. So it should work well.
Well, I just thought if we need to. You asked me about car stickers and all those sorts of things. I thought I'd better tell a quick iffy story, a detour story to go, because I think we've had quite enough humour in this. So I thought I'd whack one in. It was one of the classic ones.
All right, put the kettle on.
The late Simon Townley, who did a few tours with me, used to be sports editor of the Herald Sun, and later with the Geelong 80. It was him, Ronnie Reid, myself, and Steve the Drunk. The four of us. And if you call Steve the Drunk in this company, it's pretty bad. But so we're sitting, it's a really hot day, and we're sitting in a little roadside cafe having a bottle of rosé, as you do on a hot 40-degree day in France. Back then, I was allowed to have one, maybe two quiet ones, as long as you. But now it's 0-0, so I couldn't do that. But this is before that. So but we're well ahead of the race. We're half an hour ahead of the race more. So we decided we could fit a second bottle of rosé in. So we're on to the second bottle. Suddenly, here come the choppers. The race is 20 minutes ahead of schedule because of the tailwind. And suddenly, the breakaway's gone past us. I said, Jesus. So we dive in the car. I quickly look at the map. I've got the wrong colour sticker on, so I'm not supposed to go in between the break and the peloton. But I said, Robbie's going to win today. I've got to get to the finish. So we dive in between. I do a lefty off the course. I'll look at the map. I said, right, if I take this road, 25K, small roads, but we really hurt it, we'll get in front. So I've done that. Down this small road, got this little Peugeot, I've got really humming. I come around the corner, and there is a tractor and trailer with a big, one of those giant hay bales that's exploded. It's on fire. The tree's on fire. It's on, the whole road's covered. I pull up, and Ronnie Reid goes, we're knackered now. I said, Ron, put your window up. He said, what? So we've driven through the flames, and I remember coming out the other side, and the bloody farmer's looking at me with shaking his head. We've given it the gun and a zoom around, and we come onto the course about 12K to go on a diagonal course. Luckily, there were no cars parked on this small road, but the big copper there and just put his hand up, and he looks up to the left, and here's the lead car coming on the left. So he's looking at the lead car. I've dived underneath him. He was pretty friendly because he was waving his hand at me, and we just beat the lead car on. We did screw to the last 10K, jumped out of the car. Ronnie Reid and I ran the finish line to watch Robbie McEwen win the stage, and I was the first one there with the microphone.
Well, there you go. That is just, folks, that is just a taste of what's to come on the detour. We're going to have stories every day. And tomorrow, when we preview stage one, we'll have a story that'll flash back to a very famous edition of the Tour de France. That's 2013, when a bus hit a finish line. We'll get the proper inside story on that. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in to the detour. We've had a blast, and make sure you stay tuned and subscribe, follow, tell your friends, because we'll be back at 6:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time to preview stage one. See you then.